Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. So this week we're getting ready for the budget, right? What do you think about it? Have you been thinking about it at all? In just a few days, the finance minister is going to present the first budget of the third Modi government. And you have to admit that things are not looking all that rosy, right? In fact, far from celebrating path-breaking reforms, this time the optics are quite dire on many fronts. So much so that even a powerful social media cell that the government has, amplified by 1 million influencers and AI-powered bots, is not able to control the narrative or conceal the impact of poor planning, hasty implementation, and a disconnect from the people. Yes, the government doesn't seem to be listening to us. In fact, I would say reality has completely overwhelmed the rhetoric. We are not willing to believe promises anymore. In fact, the National Democratic Alliance, despite significantly reduced seats, hasn't got the signal because they are sending out the message that instead of acknowledging discontent or what has happened in the elections, they have begun the term as though nothing has changed. Prime Minister Modi has reinforced this message by retaining his core team of ministers, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, and giving away very little in terms of key ministries to the political allies. But that's about all that the government can do to signal that it is politics as usual for Modi 3.0. In fact, the negative optics are being generated on a daily basis and they are beyond the government's control. Let's look at some of them. Let's start with something that all of us have been watching this week, which is the highly choreographed spectacle of opulence and lavish display of wealth at Anand Ambani's wedding. This has been broadcast all over India by a fawning media, YouTube, social media channels, influencers who were particularly called there to cover the wedding. But videos of this extravagant wedding, the expensive wedding invitations, 250 item menus, were in the same space and paper as chilling reports, I'm sure you read it, of poor children in other parts of the country who were served rice with turmeric and salt for a whole month as their midday meals. This is the income disparity that we are talking about. And what triggers a comparison more than this super grand, biggest, fattest ever wedding that all of us have been looking at any time you get onto social media? Now, sure, it will be argued that the Ambanis are spending their money. They have every right to spend their stupendous wealth in whatever way they want to, gift watches worth crores of rupees. How does it matter? It's their money. They've also made the charitable gestures like funding a mass wedding for 50 poor couples, giving them lots of gifts, hosting 40 days of a bhandara or public feast for the hoi polloi who are not invited to the wedding for 40 days, right? So about thousands, 9,000 someone said, have been fed near their home in Mumbai. But it's also been argued that everybody loves pomp and pageantry. Weren't we all watching the videos? That is true. But usually people love pomp and pageantry when it is associated with national pride, the Republic Day parade, or royalty, the royal wedding in the UK. It's not equally true of over-the-top display of riches by business oligarchs. In fact, the never-ending festivities, although closely followed by the people, constantly drew comparison with vast income disparity in India. You want to know the numbers? The top 1% of India's super rich control 53% of the nation's wealth. The bottom 50% owns a miserable 4.1%. And over 810 million people in India survive on 5 kgs of free ration distributed by the government. They need it. They're not adding it to what they have. This is in contrast with a lavish wedding that created, if you ask me, bad optics primarily for the government in power, because it showed you what has happened in the last 10 years in terms of income disparity. Now, a majority of Indians actually have a very depressing real life, their daily commutes, and all this just drowns out the data that the government keeps throwing at us, that India ranks 5th in terms of gross domestic product. It's aspiring to be a $5 trillion economy. It's growing at 7.2%. Does it mean anything to you when you're trying to balance your budget, pay education fees, get a job? In fact, even the international media, which has reported the Ambani wedding extensively, invariably makes a point about how India ranks very low in terms of equality rankings. A UNDP report of 2023 says a third of all the poor people in the world live in South Asia, 389 million. And of these, significant number are here in this country. But let's not talk about the wedding alone. Let's look at everything else. Infrastructure, for instance. A recurring image of the last 5 years especially is that of Prime Minister Modi inaugurating mega infrastructure projects, roads, tunnels, airports, bridges, railway stations, flagging of high-end trains. Beautiful videos of these grand projects were circulated on social media very widely by the IT cell. All this was seen as a sign of unprecedented infrastructure development. In fact, for most Indians who voted for the NDA, the expectation was that we are on the fast track of being a developed nation, and this would generate employment opportunities and lift people out of poverty. And that is why we were supposed to support all this mega spending on infrastructure, and we did support it. It needed just 2 to 3 weeks of monsoon fury to expose all kinds of problems, serious flaws in design, planning, structural engineering, supervision, and of course monumental corruption in many of the showpiece projects. So the magnificent 22 kilometers Atal Setu developed cracks on its approach road. The grand Mumbai coastal road sprang leaks in its tunnel. The 701 kilometer Samruddhi Mahamarg, it's a big expressway connecting Mumbai and Nagpur, developed cracks. There were cracks on the Nashik highway, there were cracks on Manali highway. Even infrastructure that has been showpiece for 25 years, like the Mumbai-Pune expressway, for the first time ever in the monsoon, you had waterlogging in one part of the expressway. Why? Because of badly planned, reckless expansion that is going on. As for the Mumbai-Goa highway, it is an embarrassment after 10 years, not yet complete and hopefully going to be completed at the end of 2024. Now let's come to airports. Newly constructed airports at Bangalore and Goa had leaks like waterfalls inside the airport. Canopies outside the Delhi airport collapsed and killed one, another collapsed in Jabalpur. Series of train accidents have occurred. There are leaky rakes, so you had waterfalls even inside the great Vande Bharat, taking the sheen off it. If you were not complaining about leaks, you were complaining about air conditioning in some of the trains. Then, the astonishing collapse of 13 bridges in 1 month in Bihar. Do you even hear a noise or political outrage? No, because it is an important ally. And remember, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just part of what we have seen in the last 4 to 5 weeks. In addition, there is a cost and time overrun on all major infrastructure projects, which has been reported in another video blog by Devashish Basu, our editor, and in a column in Moneylife. So hasn't the image of rapid progress and development been washed away? What's your view? Now, 2 parts. Let's look at corruption. The government came to power promising to eliminate corruption, provide efficient administration, use technology to deliver results, and now there is wide distrust on every front. There's rampant corruption and delay in implementation, which has undermined faith in most government institutions and processes. Shoddy work, illegal clearances have affected lives, bridges have fallen, hoardings have fallen, they've killed people. Most often, there isn't any safety net, there are ex gratia that's announced, people don't even get the compensation that they're supposed to. This is the recurring story of India. Then you have politicization of all government services, ignoring judicial processes, for instance, using bulldozers as a tool of punishment and land acquisition. Without so much as a court order or a notice, a bulldozer is demolishing things, property, houses, and this is being normalized in state after state. Maharashtra has been quick to adopt it. Remember the horrific road accident in Pune, where the Porsche Pune case, as people call it, where two young techies were killed. There was a drunk underage driver, two techies were killed. What was the government's response? Sending bulldozers to demolish illegal parts of bars which served him drinks. What does it have to do with the death and the accident itself, that there were illegal constructions there? They even went out after his father. It was in fact a way of signaling that we kept our eyes shut to all the illegality until something happened which has created public outrage. Now that people are angry, let's do something to shut them down. It is completely disconnected, and it does not follow judicial processes, and it does not bring justice to the two people who died. Look at education. We first had all the scandals over paper leaks in the most prestigious exams, G for engineering, medical services, government jobs. Then you have job fixing, which is coming out. This job fixing is happening to all the prestigious places where you need very high marks, medicine, engineering, public services. It has demoralized the youth. And these are youngsters who are struggling with rising education costs, face high unemployment. You know the kind of rush that there is when jobs are announced. In the middle of all this, you have the Pooja Khedekar scandal. She is an IAS probationer. IAS is an elite government service. These are our bureaucrats. And the information that's been spilling out in the last 2 weeks is scandalous, to say the least. It has exposed how easy it is for powerful people to manipulate even the most prestigious Union Public Service Commission admission process, which most people thought was clean and straight. She is alleged to have falsified her name, her age 2 years have vanished, her income, so she's in, the non-creamy layer, she's got an OBC certificate, she's fudged disability certificates not once but multiple times in order to game the system at will. This deprives deserving candidates. In fact, the corruption process allowed Pooja Khedekar to get admission first to a medical college. She had no physical disabilities at that time. Then a job in the IRS. Meanwhile, she continued to appear for the UPSC in order to get into the IAS. She managed some more disability certificates, and now it is spilling out that she is just one of possibly hundreds or thousands who have been doing this. This kind of impunity is only possible when the entire system is corrupt and complicit about creating and accepting fake documents. It also calls into question the identity verification process, such as Aadhaar. Aadhaar said it is going to give us unique biometric identification. We are all subject to mindless KYC processes. Aadhaar and KYC has become a tool to deprive us of access to our own money in bank accounts which are frozen, or for the really poor people to their legitimate entitlement to direct benefits from the government. Let's move on to taxation. That is what affects most of you who are watching this video blog. Just we, the middle class Indians, we are fed up and frustrated at high taxation, even while cost of food, fuel, education, healthcare, tolls, cess, and of course the goods and services tax are continuously rising. Recent data shows that gross personal income tax paid as direct tax by people at 3.61 lakh crore in just this one quarter of April to June has outstripped gross corporate tax collection, which is 2.65 lakh crore, which means we individuals are paying much more tax, higher tax than companies. Research findings show that the bottom 50% of people accounted for 64% of total GST payments, and this information has gone viral. Why? Because remember, GST, 18% on everything, on your utilities, your electricity, your phone bill, your healthcare insurance, is over and above the tax that you pay, and many of you are at the highest level. The government remained oblivious to the public anger on 18% GST on not just the utilities that I mentioned, but even packaged parathas. Meanwhile, gold, silver have 3% GST. People are angry, government doesn't care. In fact, they put out month after month data to show that GST collections have been rising continuously since July 2017 when it was introduced. Now suddenly we are told the data will not be published anymore after 7 years. Why? We don't know. Opinion is mixed. Some say it is because the government is finally listening to public outrage on high GST, which is why your collections increase. And some say it's because actually collections have fallen, which means that the economy is not doing so well, so there is less GST. Frankly, neither of these paints a great picture for the government, which is about to announce a budget. Remember, this is perception and optics, and this is crucial to politics, especially in a democracy. So, coming back to the Ambani wedding, the presence of politicians across the spectrum did not affect just the government in power, but it affected people's perception about politicians in general. The message that we got is they are all together, they are completely aligned with the political class and the oligarchs, whether it is Ambani, Adani, Mallya, Agarwal, Jindal, it doesn't matter. They will work for their mutual benefit. Ordinary people are left to deal with corrupt and creaking systems, with zero social security or a safety net, even after you've diligently paid your taxes for decades. Social media has amplified all this because we live in different times. And the results are not seen only in what is spewed out on social media, but during election time. We saw that. So what the union budget does will be a signal, but the results of what people think and feel will be reflected in a set of elections, 4 state elections that are coming up. Do you agree? What do you think the government should do? Wait and watch. We have the budget. We'll analyze it soon enough. Thank you.